In this Eng 1101 reflection, I'm going to be focusing on my passion for changing the way cities are built and look in the future. What's the problem? The UN released a list of 17 SDGs, which are Sustainable Development Goals for countries to act upon by 2030, and these goals range on human welfare issues like providing education, clean water and sanitation, and ending world hunger, all the way to environmental protection like protecting wildlife on land or in the sea. I personally really resonated with goal number 11, and to give you a preface of what I'm going to talk about, I want to define sustainable engineering, and that is the process of using resources in a way that does not compromise the environment or deplete the materials for future generations. And this was said by the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Goal 11 specifies that we should make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. What do I want to focus on? Well, I currently live in Toronto, and Toronto is notorious for being under construction all the time. We are continuously renovating, building new skyscrapers and condos to fit the growing population. I want to incorporate sustainable engineering into the future growth of the city and the neighborhoods that surround it, so that we generate less waste, and the materials that we use now will be able to be used in the future generations. What are the facts? The construction industry is one of the main producers of waste, and with 7 billion people living in the world and the population increasing at an upwards trajectory, countries need to build more facilities and housing to uphold their population. The more things that we need to build, and the faster we need to build them, the more waste we're going to generate. In Canada alone, 25% of the overall waste stream is made up of demolition and construction waste, and the construction industry in Canada contributes to 25 to 45% of North America's solid waste. These facts were provided by Construction Specifications of Canada. With all this waste being generated, I want to figure out a way to build structures more effectively to reduce the amount of unnecessary waste being generated from this growing industry. So a little bit about me and why I want to resolve this issue. I'm an advocate for taking action towards climate change and pollution, and since climate change is a ticking time bomb, I really want to figure out a way to maximize the efficiency of both building and maintaining buildings. I also aspire to make a difference within my community. Growing up in a low-income neighborhood, I don't really get to be surrounded by newly developed condos and buildings, so I want to get to a point in my career where I can bring sustainable, affordable, and energy-efficient settlements back into the neighborhood. I would like to think of myself as a great problem solver, and I'm very curious, optimistic, and passionate about what the future of the city could look like and how I can contribute to the growth of my city. So these are a couple of drawings that I've drawn of buildings that I think should be incorporated throughout the city within the future, whether it be for big corporation offices or newly developed condos to even everyday houses. I think green buildings throughout our city would make a huge difference within the environment. When we take into consideration all of the factors that are required to build a new building, I want to improve on the design, production, and maintenance of buildings to reduce the amount of pollution and waste and energy that's being used to both build and maintain them. Starting off with the land, a lot of deforestation occurs when building buildings, so in the future, we should really consider the efficiency of using the space that we are given, especially if new buildings are being built one after the other next to each other. Going back on the usage of materials, if we're producing a lot of waste, I want to find a way to have this waste be reincorporated back into the building process of the building so we can reduce the amount of waste. And finally, the energy use. The energy usage within buildings is crazy, especially if not designed properly. So I want to figure out a way to design a building to maximize its energy efficiency, whether it be having bigger windows so we don't need to use as much electricity, or redesigning the water system so that we don't use as much water within our buildings. All these little differences adding up together would produce energy efficient buildings, which is great for the future of a thriving city. So how will my inspiration shape my education? I aspire to be a civil engineer, and I hope for a more green city and world in the future where our buildings will be both energy efficient and have low impact to our pollution and climate change problems. I want to help contribute to improving the 11th SDG by 2030, and I want to start thinking of solutions now rather than when I graduate in 2024. So I'm going to be doing a lot of my own research within the next few years, as well as taking the concepts that I've learned in the past and also the future knowledge that I'm going to learn throughout engineering courses to hopefully provide a better solution to the construction industry in the future. Thank you so much for watching my presentation, and I hope that I inspired you even a little to reconsider how our cities are being built in the future.